wanted to pursue already. So it's kind of a mutual influence and inspiration.
So this is WRMI 15770 with what should be technically
In May 1893,
Radio Prague.
planned to leave the city with his family for the summer. The New York Herald published the explosive interview that included what became known as the Dvorak statement. "I am now satisfied," he said, "that the future music of this country must be founded upon what are called Negro melodies. This must be the real foundation of any serious and original school of composition to be developed in the United States." Dvorak's New World Symphony, which the New York Philharmonic agreed to premiere in December 1893, was supposed to prove his hypothesis, says Professor Schedel.
So this is radio. It says Radio Prague in the schedules. With WRMI, you're always not really sure. There's no clear idea yet.
The final side of the story that you're asking about is how did he...
But it's WRMI, that's for sure, in 15770.
Over 8
Pretty
months.
good signal.
And in the book, I follow about 8 different channels of influence on him. So there were several individuals from different strands of his experience in New York City that brought him to this conclusion. The most important of which was one of the voice students at the conservatory named Harry T. Burley, who was a baritone vocalist and is probably the most well-known companion of Dvorak as far as this side of Dvorak's residency goes. But Burley sang spirituals and other vernacular music for Dvorak in his own home with his children there, and they developed a very good relationship. Michael Beckerman, a scholar at New York University, has shown that the music critic James Huneker had a profound influence on Dvorak too by showing him this article in a music magazine that appeared in 1892, written by a woman in Louisville, Kentucky, who was a school teacher but had compiled street cries of African-American residents of the city and had published these street cries along with an analysis of the musical characteristics. And in that article, she mentions that maybe...
And on the Yaesu FT-450. It's interesting how the Yaesu seems to not perform as well on that frequency. Still using the same good... here we go. I just found that there's something I need to check with the plug here. There we go. Checking connectors is important. Oh yeah, it's not screwed in all the way. Here we go. Yeah, now it's good. I was wondering. When a radio performs really less than the others, there's always something to check.
And so Dvorak was getting input from a lot of people in the United States who were invested in the preservation of African-American folk music, as well as signaling its importance for American culture and American musical culture and history in general. And so that Dvorak reached the conclusion that he reached, I think makes sense, given his proclivities for using bohemian folk dance and folk melody in many of his earlier pieces, including symphonic pieces. And so I think one of the more fun aspects of the story is really seeing the kaleidoscope of personalities beyond Dvorak who played a role in the story, both feeding into Dvorak and then fanning out from his statements, his famous statements in May of 1893. A
New York Herald article published on December 17, 1893, wrote about the premiere of Dvorak's.
We can also check the SDR, see how it receives it. So here is it's from the Sdrplay RSPdx now, up there.
Setting aside historical questions for a moment, I asked musicologist Douglas Shadle, an expert on 19th century American classical music, what, in his view, makes the composition so special, so universally beloved today.
Yeah, so in the introduction to the book, I talk about my own first encounter with the New World Symphony, which is when I was about 14 years old. You know, of course, I had no idea about any of these backstories. I heard it, just as a piece of music, if you will. And I think there are many musical aspects of it that are a part of this story, but don't necessarily require knowledge of the story. One is the rhythmic vitality and the energy, especially in the three faster movements.
And back to the Tecsun PL-990x.
Is dramatic. I think that's the best way for me to describe it. But each movement is its own sort of microdrama that creates a larger story arc from beginning to end. And it's not the story arc, say, of a Beethoven Fifth Symphony, which is from struggle to triumph. It's not a kind of story arc with leitmotifs like a Richard Wagner opera. It's a story arc that invokes a wide spectrum of emotion in a way that I think few other symphonies actually do. I mean, symphonies are all rather complex and large, and that's what makes them symphonies. They're multi-movement, this sort of thing. But the New World Symphony has a depth and a breadth of emotional expression, of dramatic expression, that really makes it stand out. And then when you add in all of these other cultural signifiers, like its engagement with African American music, and potentially Native American music, and the other sort of non-musical things like the story of Hiawatha that Dvorak was thinking about, it's really, I mean, I think it's one of the most densely thought out symphonies in the literature. I'm the last person to say that a piece is great for all time, but I would just argue that I think this is the reason why many people have found it so compelling. I don't think it's necessarily inherently compelling. I'm just saying that people tend to want something with human interest and drama in it. And even though it's
now we can
instrumental, I think
go
Dvorak has
back
found it
to the Icom. See how it sounds here.
to bring people into it.
All
There's
radios
so much
perform
in it
really
to
well,
enjoy,
especially with
and that
strong
is
signals like this
actually
one, WRMI, but
it's really a wonderful piece.
it's also nice to hear
In
the
the
different
second part of our discussion,
audio
with
quality.
Douglas Shadle, author of the book Antonin Dvorak's New World Symphony, we learn more about the specifics of the famous composition, what American influences can be found in the Czech composer's work, and trace Dvorak's influence on some of the black
So Radio
musicians
Prague
and intellectuals
via
who brought about the Harlem
WRMI
Renaissance, and to consider his
15770.
advocacy of African
They
American
are daily
a significant
from
milestone.
21 to 21:30 on 15770.
And that was musicologist Douglas Shadle speaking to Brian Kennedy there in what is the first part of a two-part interview about Antonin Dvorak's New World Symphony. If you have any comments about today's program, then please send them to us. You can contact us by email at english@radio.cz or on Facebook and Twitter. We'll certainly be glad to hear from you. But now that is all from me, Tom Mancro. I thank you very much for joining us, and goodbye.
So I hope you enjoy our comparing of radios. It's a lot of fun to do, and especially with the new antenna coupler. It's really, really cool. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching. And you want me to compare some radios that I have here together? Let me know, because I'll be happy to do so.